Yay, let's record. Oh yeah, I forgot to turn off this audio mixer. Well, I started it to because there's a test function on this app or something. I think whatever I say would just echo, so I just disabled it. So what I've been doing is just trying to listen to my own voice in real time in a way. You know how a lot of people just can't stand their own voices? That's something like that. I'm trying to overcome them, so why not just slam your head into the brick wall again and again to overcome pain? So I'm gonna stream like no one's watching or listening. I'm gonna record this like this is my will. As in, if I'm going to die tomorrow, this is all I have to say in life. Again, maybe I'm living the live your day like there's no tomorrow sort of stupid philosophy. So it's about how I think about my current situation. I feel oddly calm, and it's almost like I have nothing to say because there's like this feeling of stagnation again. And this stagnation, it's like I play Heroes of the Storm, and there's a certain type of CC, crowd control, which is it crowd control? But it is time stop, right? So it works like a banish. So everyone else and everything else goes on as normal, and you just stagnate there as if time stopped for you. And that is pretty much what I'm feeling right now. I don't know if I'll ever feel okay again. Especially because I have the revelation that, you know what? Maybe all the problems that I have right now when it comes to emotional and psychological, if you will, problems come from a myriad of, you know, conditionings that has gone on since childhood, which I get when you try to talk about it as an adult. It really does sound like you're trying to make excuses, trying to whine. That's a big thing. I've tried a lot of things, really, I did. So, what do I want to do with my life? I have no idea, bro. So, here's what I want to do. I want to find a job. Like, it's almost like I know I want to find a job and I need to find a job. I've gone to even the extent of going, like, I don't know, man. What am I rambling about today? I guess this is kind of like a personal diary, if you will, which I will probably delete. So, sometimes I do ask myself, for how long can you keep whining about the situation until you can move on? What's wrong with words, or what's wrong with me that literally makes me so crippled in life? This is the conundrum I really want to solve, you know? And being with a parents that I got contact with, communication with, is not. I feel like people from the boomer generation when they talk to you. Oh, where was I? Oh dear, my train of thought has just been. They talk to me like I'm some sort of robot, I guess. Everything is about results, right? Hmm. There's just a lot of things in my head, in my heart that I cannot say. Imagine going on Dr. K, dude, and showing your face to the world. I know if I manage, not manage, but if I ever get to Dr. K's interview show or something, which I probably won't, let's be real, I would probably request my face to be hidden because holy crap, I know my family will not understand. They'll probably think, wow, you're airing dirty laundry out to the world that of course in their opinion is not even real. You're lying to the world, you're bad mouthing us and like you're ungrateful little shit and we supported you all your life. How dare you? How dare you? And this is kind of like that mentality that my parents had, right? Have still. And again, I guess there are people you realize that you will probably never really connect the bridge with, right? Because people live in like a different dimension, you know. Let me search up this word, paradigm. The definition of paradigm. Hmm. Archetype. Hmm. I guess this is not the word for it, but people from the. I realize that it's hard for some people to bridge the gap, if you will. And by that, I'm referring to the generational gap where I guess the boomers, when you listen or watch any interviews, you would realize that they had the generational gap with their parents too, right? Their parents were, to them, very authoritarian and very, controlling and all that. And that's why they had the flower power hippie movement and all that, right? It's almost like the boomer generation's parents really lacked something, and perhaps to them, they lack soul, right? Everything has to be a certain way. And everything has to be like, if you're not doing work, if you're not like doing this, then you're fucking up, right? And eventually, I think, despite a lot of boomer parents being just, maybe some of the boomer parents were hippies or something, but I don't know, man. It seems like there's almost like a generational trauma. And even if you swear to God or whatever forces out there that you don't want to be your parents when you grow up, you end up actually doing the same things to your kids. Of course, I don't know if that's true, but that's probably true, man, when it comes to my parents anyway. And I'm not necessarily, hmm, I feel like I'm bad mouthing them, but of course it's not. I feel like I'm stating facts, and in my mind, in my heart, in my soul, I know that if my parents would hear this, they would think that, wow, you're just like so ungrateful and you're just... I know what they'll think. They just don't understand. There's this generational gap between us. And again, there's such rigid things, And because they have experience, and by that I mean that they are like adults, right? They have gone through life, and most probably when your parents are born from the 60s or something, especially for the ethnicity that I come from, which I won't reveal, and the culture that I'm from, the people, my sort of people, no matter what, country in the world you're in, you're probably gonna start over. As in, you're probably gonna start poor, you're probably not rich, so that means that you have to work your way up from the ground. And in some cases, you might even need to survive off the land, which I think to a certain extent my grandparents did, right? And then came my parents. Why am I talking about them all the time? I guess I guess I know why. It's because you try to move forward, you try to push yourself, but there's this just impenetrable emotion, like emotional barrier, you know. You try to find a job, you can muster up the courage, the energy, the confidence to, and then you get an interview, you fuck it right up because you simply just hate yourself. I'm sorry to say. And why am I saying I'm sorry to say? I'm talking to like about myself. I know I hate myself. I think. I think. No, I don't think I hate myself as much as just I don't think I hate myself. I'm not sure. I think I am, I guess. But it's just an accumulation of things that form into the being that I am today. That I look back and say, I just realize, I have so much inadequacies, so many. It's like people going out to bars and drink is like such a normal thing for them, and I'm here afraid to even go out. When you think about it, I'm kind of like a hermit, or hikikomori, if you will, in Japanese. They have a special term for it. I think it's hikikomori or hikikomori. Yeah, whatever it is, right? So, I guess why I talk about where I come from and my parents and my family is because, I tried every single thing to muster up enough energy, enough confidence and whatnot to just try to just get out the door. Literally and figuratively, right? Where you really have to like muster up something to step out to, I guess, society, if you will. Just like finding a job, trying to do this, trying to do that as an adult or something. And I cannot explain how this fear feels like without sounding just so stupid. And perhaps I should just repeat, how stupid it is so that I'll get over it somehow. But apparently life doesn't work that way, right? And so the reason I talk about my, you know, origin, my upbringing, my formative years, and my parents and my elders, and my fucking elder sister is because it's like, it's like I feel like it's a necessary step in order to learn to, no, it's a necessary step to, you know, ride the bicycle without the training wheels, right? And granted, I guess the scrapes and the scars on your knees and your feet and your hands, your palms, are already there from stumbling around, from riding the bicycle without any training wheels, right? That's such a shit analogy, but I feel like I was thrusted out into the world and be demanded to ride on a unicycle perfectly. without even having training wheels. And so with the unicycle, I keep stumbling and falling. And now I'm trying to find the training wheels, right? The origin of it all. What made me so fucked up or something like that? I don't know if I'll live for much. I don't know if I'll live through this year because I will. There will come a time where I have to go back. That might happen. And to have the revelations that I've had, and to go back to huh, the poisonous swamp that spawned me, to come out here detoxify from the swamp, and now I have to be forced to go back. Hmm. It's scary when things like these come back to a logical conclusion. Hmm. Or have a logical reasoning. I know, we know. And I say we, I mean like me, but I don't want to be talking about this all the time, but when every single thing that I ever liked and ever loved has been suppressed by the same source, what do you do about that, really? Emotionally and all that. And why can't I get back into it, like art, creative stuff? And I see these cringy, I don't know, white people in general, they try to draw like Japanese sort of art and it just ends up so cringy. And they commission it for like what, $200? I don't know how many dollars. I'm like, in my head, I know at 13, at 15, I've done so much better. And I can say this now because it's in the past, so it's not like bragging or because, nowadays I can't even muster up to draw anything because it's just so conditioned and so traumatized out of me in a way, you know. Of course, again, coming back to the boomer topic, like these parents think the games, the video games, the computers are a waste of time or the work of the devil. And, well, in my household, it's not the work of the devil, but they'll say it's a waste of time. It's like, just the worst thing in the world. And they get to watch their, I don't know, Korean drama, pointless drama, episodic, you know, TV series all the time. And me playing the computer or something is a waste of time. Of course they don't see it as hypocrisy. Of course they don't. And of course I don't know what's different, man. It's like, hmm. Again, this is not a recording today to point out about their you know, inadequacies, if you will. It's just about, let's talk about giving up. How about that? Give up. Giving up. Something like, because I've tried helping and self-hacking for so long, I've heard pretty much every single cringy pseudo-philosophical quotes out there that you can imagine. Like, again, I guess there's this live like there's no tomorrow. I had one in my mind that I wanted to talk about, but It just flew out of my head. Typical me. Man. Ah, I remember now. The very cringy sort of, you know, the very sort of cringy, pseudo philosophical thing I wanted to talk about is oh, it just flew out of my head again. What was it? Live. Oh well, I'm just wasting time. Ah, yes. That quote is sometimes giving up is the strongest thing you can do. uh, isn't that the most bullshit thing you have ever heard? Yeah, I guess, and to a certain extent, it can be true. I just think it's funny because when you use that in certain contexts, that means that people who jump off a bridge are very strong. Which again, I do agree with. It does take a lot of guts to just say, you know what, fuck this, kill yourself, because, offing yourself is one of the most painful things you will ever do in your life. In your life. Imagine the amount and the amount of violence that you have to inflict onto yourself, you know, in order to just rip the life away from your body. And of course, some people may choose more, I don't know, peaceful means, if you will, or less painful means, but it's still like a very grave assault to your body, right? Like some people will, you know, choose the bloody route, and some others would just, connect the pipe to their car or something and suffocate to death. So it's like a grave assault to your respiratory system. Something like that. What I mean, I'm saying what I mean. I do hope that I will not go to that, level. Which probably, I don't know, man. I can't even promise myself that anymore. Every single day there has always been the thought that flashes through and the memory, if you will, about how other people are just living normal lives, and I'm just here like, why the fuck can't I even function, right? My phone just rang. I mean, pinged, whatever you call it, and even that sends my fucking heart into a shock. It's like there's almost some things that I need to avoid and want to avoid or something, and I don't know, there's just fear. I guess it's anxiety in a way. I don't like to use the word trigger, but I pretty much, reluctantly have to admit that maybe that's really a thing, you know. And I'm starting to actually understand. Like, I'm a pretty, you know, I would say empathetic person. I can pretty much very easily put myself in your shoes and feel what you might have felt. But there's some things that I genuinely cannot really like fully experience or understand. Like I cannot imagine what it would feel. No, I cannot imagine how it feels like, right? One of them is they say, war veterans, they come back and they become violent, especially if they hear something loud, right? It's PTSD. And now I'm experiencing, well, something, I guess. So war veterans kind of like get quote unquote triggered by very loud noises, maybe flames, fires, like bangs and all that, and just something that goes knock, and they become hyper vigilant and they hyperventilate, and they might even like just burst out, like just burst out and become super violent and angry and enraged in order to just make this fear, this extreme fear go away, right? And it's understandable, that um they were in life and death situations, so that was like now they're safe and they hear something like bang, someone like just I don't know drop something on the floor upstairs and you can hear it and it's just like whoa, super triggering to you, right? And for me, I guess it's almost the same way. It's like a PTSD light, if you will, right? So in our household, and I think people in our ethnicity in general and our culture in general, we're a pretty risk adverse and conflict avoidant sort of bunch, right? So if something goes boom and goes loud, and if someone raises their voice and all that, it pretty much signifies that shit has gone through the roof, or night. The shit has gone down, right? And there's this like fear, if things become loud, if people like throw things around, or it sounds like people throw things around, it really signified to me as a child that fuck, things are going down, man. So now what's happening is that my landlord is working on the house upstairs, and you know you can hear it, and it's like boom boom boom, like every single thump, every single noise, like every single like thumping noise or something, just literally just like wow, like you can hear and you can feel your heart beating almost in sync with every thump and every beat. You can feel that. You know how panic feels? It's like a sour sort of feeling. It's like if you can put a taste to it, it's like a sour feeling. It's like someone just poured acid and it's just like crinkling into itself, and it's just you can feel it. And I felt every moment of that. And I know in my head, right? I know in my head they're just working in the house. So why the fuck did I feel so afraid with every thump? And of course I'm late with my rent and all that shit. So I guess in my deepest of hearts, I think they're trying to kick me out or something. Oh, I'm so pathetic. Yesterday I have the same old talk with a flatmate or a housemate of mine. It's so interesting that in our culture that you find that friends will say better things about you. I not that I have any, but I don't know if it's in the culture, but I pretty much know that my parents are very ignorant, you know. And did I cut myself off at a certain point? I think I did, about how they were raised in a time where, I guess they almost live like in a different sort of perspective and dimension from us, you know. And because that they had to work their way up, which again deserves their own props. And so when we you know, have any concerns or complaints or feel bad about something. To them, it's just minuscule, like dramatic shit, you know? And because they think that what we're feeling, or when we complain, or when we like have emotional problems or something, feel negative about something, they'll think like it's insignificant and they'll, explain it away with labels like lazy, dramatic, attention seeking, just being a bad child. What else? A lot of something else, I guess. And because they do that, because they're not emotionally intelligent enough, and instead of addressing like our emotional struggles, they guilt us when we're trying to grow, right? Because when you have this emotional conflict for the first time in your life, it's, growing pains, right? You take the opportunity to grow and all that. And of course, as your parents, they're supposed to be there to guide you, I guess. But again, I understandable that they're not emotionally intelligent enough or experienced enough. So instead of helping us grow and, helping us like go through this emotional journey together, that sounds so entitled. Instead of doing that and like actually trying to understand how we feel or empathize or like work through it, talk through it, they instead slap a label on it and made us feel bad for our emotions. And so I think a lot of us, a lot of, kids from my culture and my ethnicity has grown up to be very introverted, generally speaking, introverted, risk adverse, socially awkward people. And if you guess like which ethnicity or culture it is, you probably can guess it right. And of course, you can't guess, like, don't guess based on my accent or something, but guess based on what I just told you, if anyone's listening anyway. It's a whole generation of that, and generations more to come, probably. And it's so prevalent that even when you mention the stereotype of my sort of, cultured people, they'll say that you're good at math, you're very good at um, school, you're very good at studies, but you don't know our culture, the people from our culture to be social people, like generally, right? Stereotype is like Stereotypes are like smoke to the fire, right? It's not, of course, it's not entirely true because it's like this encompassing umbrella term or something. Hmm. But it is, my mind is starting to shut down. I hate how I can feel it because talking about these things really takes a mental toll. But I cannot not talk about these things because I've gone like you can feel it shutting down. And how it feels like you're just suddenly sleepy. And you feel like part of your eye will start to go sleepy and it will spread through your head or something. And you'll start to yawn. And this is why it's so easy to just stay back in the depression of like stagnation of depression, if you will. Because at least like that you can function a little bit more, you know, grab onto what little consciousness you still have. I don't want to cry, man. I really don't. And as you feel yourself getting sleepier, you'll hear your heartbeats more. And you hear, it's not like you hear, but it's almost like you can feel more and more your bodily sensations. Physical. Fuck! It's not easy, I guess. But according to my parents, it's so easy to be me. And it's like you're just doing it to yourself. Stress, you choose to stress in their, in their words and all that. Oh my god. People like those will never understand. And I should have given up. I don't know what I expected. They're all the same. And sometimes when I talk to them, it's like a mixture of talking to a brick wall and a primitive being when it comes to emotions. It's like they only have a few states of mind, few states of existence, few states of emotions, and that's about it. You know, it's like trying to make calculators know complex code. And I know it sounds very bad and it sounds like I'm really trash talking my parents super hard, but I just feel like it's more tragic than anything. And I don't want to feel this way about my parents. I can go, like, I cannot go to them for anything when it comes to the most essential things like emotional support, because the extent of what they understand emotional support is, I don't even know. And this is made complicated by the fact that they financially support me. And it's just the emotion of it all, you know, the things that they say to you. And they think it's okay. And I want it to be okay, as in, I want to not care. I don't want to not be hurt, offended, or something. I don't know. It's not even offended, you know. When your parents tell you that, the reason that someone accused you of stealing is because you dress like shit, so that you know, they think that, because you dress like shit, so you must be the thief because they see you look this way, like a pauper. So that means they see that visually you have the need to steal things. And when I was like almost assaulted sexually or something, why did I say it was something? Trying to like diffuse. And to have people around you who are blood related to you to say that, oh, you must have sent the wrong signal. What are you doing? Or what were you doing? It really makes you like question, like, not question, it almost fucks up your reality by default. And I wish words can simply just be words. Like, seriously. Why can't they just be words? Like, why can't they just disappear into the wind? Why can't they be like as concrete as, you know, what it is in real life, which is not concrete at all? You say something, you can't wrap your fingers around your, you know, the air in front of your mouth and say, see, these are the words and stuff like that, right? I don't understand why words can really make me so fucked up, right? Like majority of, my afflictions, if you will, are like, to me, are caused by just verbal. I hate to use the word abuse too, because to me, abuse needs to be like maliciously deliberate. And I don't think my parents were ever malicious. They meant well for me, I think. And at worst, I think at worst it's just that they tried to live vicariously through me to various degrees, right? But I don't think 100% do not think that they're malicious. And that's what made it so hard. It's like a lot of just emotional, I guess, or mental, just. It's like a giant knot just in the middle of your chest, dude. It's just so hard to just. I wish, like, if you tell me that I can light up a torch and just thrust it into my chest to burn that knot off, I probably would do it. Because it would be like, I just want this, like, complicated emotion to just fuck off. And when I say complicated emotion, it's not necessarily something that you feel, like, it's not one thing, you know. And the most accurate thing, like the most accurate sort of way that I can think of to describe how that feels is like people talk about, near death experiences when you are near dying. They say that your life flashes before you like a movie or something. Like your life pretty much just flashes in front of you, before you die. And it almost feels like that. You feel every guilt of emotion, like, and you feel any negative emotion from not every single, but a lot of like events where the negative, no, you feel a lot of negative emotions from various events in your life. And, and every single like various emotions are just like flashing in you, through you. And it's like you feel like six scenarios of humiliation, seven scenarios of being berated, and one scenario of being just, you know, panicked for some reason from some event, and they're all flashed through you, and you feel them in succession in the span of like 10 seconds or something. And that's the most accurate way that I can explain it to you, right? Where you don't even like specifically like have the clear and played out memory of what happened for you to like feel this negative emotion, but it's just like, there's an inkling in back of your head, you know where it came from, but the emotion is the emotion that's in the forefront, right? This emotion, that negative thing, that like every negativity just flashing through you again and again and again, and you just want it to stop. And I just realized, when I try to just not pin all of this on my own for once and try to just like sit back, you know, I've tried every single thing. So why don't we shift this to our parents, our elders, our environment? And when I start thinking about that, I found that throughout my life, I don't think that I have been sufficiently emotionally, like being supported emotionally. It's just like you go to school, you study, you get your grades, you come back. If you like get good grades, it's expected. If you know, and the only time where we will praise you is when you're studying well and you get like super A's or something, and then we'll buy you a present. And then I remember, have your parents ever tell you like good job or from their hearts say that, I'm proud of you or something, and you know that they mean it and you feel it? I don't think for once in my life that I've ever received that sort of compliment or feedback. Compliment, huh? I wonder if that is. And of course, maybe like you can say that whenever I sigh, it's just like, oh, a pity party or you're self-pitying or something. And seriously though, I do think that self-pity sometimes is very needed because if, like, the normal progression of things, right, is supposed to be there. Like, I think that people who have a great childhood will look towards their childhood to soothe whatever bad that's going on in the present as adults. While adults who have a shitty childhood will spend their entire lives probably to look to just, soothe and, try to fix or try to, you know, fix their childhood in a way. I don't know how to word this. In my language, it's probably easier to say it, but let me try this one more time. People with healthy and happy childhoods will look back to their childhood to, you know, comfort them as adults, right? And of course, it also means that whatever you cultivated during your formative years, you learn to fix, your adult life. And it's not even fixed too. It's like, if you learn confidence and if you learned like conflict resolution as an adult, you're pretty much set, right? So it's like, yeah, people with great childhoods or happy or decent childhoods will look back for, as adults for comfort, right? Look back at their childhoods for comfort, while people who have, you know, shitty or bad childhoods will look to, perhaps in their whole adult life to look to comfort um their child selves in a way, right? So one is like looking forward to the future helped by the past, while the other one is like looking to the past to fix the past in order to try to have a future, you know? And I don't know how much more energy I can spare for this call it podcast review. I don't even know like fully what that means. You can just say like this is just some sort of, rant or something. What's a podcast, honestly? Just, I don't know, man. Does podcast have to have two or more people in it to make it a podcast? I don't know how much long I can hang out, honestly. I really do not know. Because, there's a shame that comes with the way I'm living now. Because I know for a fact that it's something to do with my childhood that made me into the person and made me into the, like, I don't know, emotional wreck that I am right now. And sometimes in a distant dream somewhere, I do wish that I've never rediscovered my emotions. But at the same time, I know that I needed to rediscover my emotions in order to dig deep and dig backwards and find out what happened to me in the past. Because during my formative years, I learned from a very young age to suppress my emotions. That's the safest and easiest way to put it. You suppress your emotions, and I don't know what went wrong sometimes, because I did my very best. And of course, in my parents' eyes, I'm just this lazy fucker that, you know, went from an A student to an F. So it's like you never tried, you're such a bad kid, and they don't acknowledge and they just simply cannot understand that there's like emotions behind all of that, right? They never asked why, you know? And to me, sometimes when I think about that, it makes me surprised that they never asked why. Because nobody just chooses to go from A to F. And perhaps in their mind, and I understand, probably in their heads, in their rigid heads, that instead of like asking why, they would just say, oh, this person's just, um, lazy. They think they're the shit, so they stop studying and they dropped into an F, right? And they think it's as easy as to just like study yourself back up to A again, which probably it is for a functioning fucking student. I wasn't functioning at all. And I almost just feel like it's just tragic. It's just tragic that, you know, nobody in the household had any clue, you know. And I was surrounded by these people, right? My elder sibling was pretty much my parent 2.0, and she hated the household. And she was like having her die-hard clique of friends. And I get her as well, you see. Again, putting myself in other people's shoes and ignoring my own, you know. I know why she hated the house. It's because, typical my sort of culture, ethnicity, parenting style, you don't get to go out of the house, man. You just stay home, study. You want social time, school, there. Your friends, your classmates are there. Or tuition classes after school. Bloom, your friends, your whatever are there. Ta-da! You should be happy. That's their mentality, right? And my elder sibling really hated the house. Like, and she would, just exclaim how her friends were actually concerned at how um strict and just how restrictive, how much she was not allowed to go outside to hang out after school or something. And I don't know how to explain this, but her dislike, her vehement dislike of the house includes, I guess, perhaps me, because I'm part of the family, part of the house, right? The house that imprisoned her in a way. As I don't necessarily blame her for it, but the way she treated me was just perhaps I don't know why. It's like perhaps I act in a way that almost looks like I was asking to be bullied or something. It's like the bullies look for the nerd kid, the lanky nerd kid, and the big glasses that just like squirm and squirm away and look down when he sees the bully. It's almost like quote unquote asking to be bullied. That kind of look. Maybe I had that sort of look, which I will admit to. I wasn't the most confident kid. In fact, I was timid as fuck. And probably again, I looked like a worm that that's just asking to be stepped on. Maybe I had that look. And even what's made it harder for me was that even the sister, the elder sibling who just hated the house, was saying the same damn thing that her imprisoners, if you will, the parents, when she says the same thing, when she hates the hold that they had over her, if even she's saying the same thing that they're saying, then it must be my problem, right? Like maybe because I was depressed from a young age or something, I had this look on my face maybe. They say it's a long horse face, which means that why are you pulling this face like everyone around the world has slighted you? You act like everything is everyone else's fault and the world revolves around you and you you're pulling a face and you're acting as if everyone in the world owes you something, and that's their words. And my sister really hated how restrictive the house was, and by proxy, I guess she hated how restrictive our parents were, but she says the same thing. So if she hates the authority of the parents and she's saying the same thing, then as wrong as I might have felt, like as in like no, that doesn't sound right. I don't feel like I'm that way, but I took it as truth because she said it and she hated. Like I'm not saying that she hated my parents, but she hated the control that they had over her. So if she hated them in a way and she's saying the same thing, then it must be my fault and my bad and my problem. And it's very easy for people from my culture to think that it's their fault, even when gut feeling you feel like no, nuh-uh, ma'am, I don't think so. It's because in all culture there's always a saying and all that, and perhaps in normal cultures of your own you'll experience the same thing as well, but it's more so in our culture that the adults will tell you that you don't know what you're doing, you don't know what's good and bad for you, and it's almost like how it is like the things that you eat, right? The things that are delicious are probably more often than not are just not healthy for you. And it's the most gross tasting food that and the most bland foods ends up being the most healthy for you, right? So it's almost like that. So when they tell you that, all these horrible things they think like you should feel about yourself, you believe them because again, like the analogy, right? It's often the bland and the yucky foods that are actually the best for you, like veggies, right? So what they're saying must be a lesson that I must learn. But eventually, I learned that, great, what lesson? Because what they say about me, isn't true. I don't feel like I'm that sort of person. But again, back then, of course you believe them. I must be this sort of person. I just don't feel it because I'm selfish. I must be narcissistic. I must be, psychopathic. At one point I thought I was all those things because they say about me all these things, but I don't feel like I'm those things, so I must be mentally or emotionally screwed up somehow. And of course, again, as you listen to this, if you listen back to this recording, which I know I will, you will. When I say you, I mean me. You will understand that this is so damn insignificant. All words and so subtle. It's not like they drink themselves silly every day and go home and beat you up and force you to eat cat litter and just, take delight in seeing you suffer. It's not that straightforward. They see something they don't like about you and they tell you, right? They're truth tellers. And that's also part of the thing, right? That they tell you is that, you know, people outside, it's their job, it's your role, it's like societal norms to just, make you feel good, tell you lies about yourself even, and to butter you up so that, you'll accept them, you don't, to get shit out of you. And us as family, it's our it's our job, it's our duty to tell you the truth so that you can improve yourself. And it sounds all good, right? It's good, it's logical, it makes sense. So if they see something they don't like about me, then it's something I must change, right? If, not for, you know, the societal needs or something, at least for my own sake, or for people to accept me. I don't know. And, sometimes again, I think like I was misunderstood my whole life in a way, but it's hard to believe still. Again, another layer. It's hard to believe that I might have been misunderstood by my parents and the people around me. And it's hard to like accept that because, you know, it's easy to accept that, oh, maybe there's a misunderstanding once, twice, thrice. But to think that it spanned through decades and you've been misunderstood your whole life, like, is that possible? And that's the hard part about it. Is it possible that you've been misunderstood so damn hard? So damn poggers. Well, I guess I'll use that wrong, but have you, like, been misunderstood so damned hardcore that it has spent so long, so consistent throughout your whole life? Is it possible? Like, or is it my own fault? Is it my problem, Because they say that if your boat ain't going forward in the water, it's because you're probably rowing against the fucking tide. So it must, like, again, it's like maybe it's your problem, Maybe it's your problem. And that's what I think, about maybe it's my problem, If everyone around me says it is this, like it's my problem, maybe it is, Chances are that it is. And what's fucked up about some things is just that, like the sexual assault thing, right? The attempted sexual assault, I would say. To to listen to your own family, and after listening to that and just like being mind blown by that, and then you hang out, not hang out, but you see your relatives and you like interact with them. Even the relatives saying the same thing. Like, you must have put out the wrong signal. You must have, you know, like, what? And it really fucks up your reality when they say those sort of things, right? And what's fucked up about it is that I don't think they're malicious at all when they say that. And I know for a fact that, they say what they say is because they're raised in this certain environment where, like, in this way where it's like a risk averse, like, as in, you do anything and everything you can to avoid any risk of any conflict, any, bad thing happening, right? And so that, I guess, includes, I don't know, interacting with a person. I'm not sure. You must have sent the wrong signal when you're all like literally like have your room barged into in order to have sexy time with you that you do not want. You must have given the wrong signal. Hmm. Wow. Just like, I don't know why some feelings have not sunken in yet, because this is one of the most factual things that I have experienced, that I know happened. Like, again, it's like the landlord working on the property, making lots of noise, and that noise actually just triggered a lot of fear in me. It's almost the same thing, I guess. Why is it almost the same thing? That thought just flew out of my head. Hmm. I'm thinking here. I'm just like, you know, and this all leads into me just being so afraid. It's not even afraid. I don't think that's a word to describe this. And even if I say anxiety, it's so like dumbed down and watered down because everyone keeps saying anxiety on YouTube, online, and whenever they have an issue, they just keep saying anxiety, anxiety, and it's almost like I don't know if you know exactly what that means, right? And probably I don't know what exactly it exactly what English is playing out the window, what, but probably I won't even know the full extent of that like word, what anxiety means, but it's just a lot of mental and emotional block that my parents will never understand. Because in their heads, you don't work, you starve, you die. And that is like, and I get it where they come from, of course. I do. But it almost sounds like when I say it like that, it almost feels like I've been raised by automatons, or I don't want to say like, okay, automatons my whole life. It's like they just only have like set sort of programming and they can't go outside of that, you know? And again, people will be frustrated probably listening to this. I might even be frustrated when I listen back to this and say to myself, like, why don't you just go out and find your own family? As if it's that easy. I've been conditioned, throughout my life to have no friends, and to be honest, I really do not desire. I have no desire to have any friends. Really, I don't. And that, of course, comes from, like, it's largely because of me not being able to have friends over or to hang out with friends, and that didn't, like, me being timid back then didn't help. And of course, my parents made it as inconvenient as possible for me to, attend anything social outside of school. And I still remember the exact card, the exact birthday card that I received. And I just remember like taking it with my left hand, the blue card with balloons on it, is an invitation to go to a birthday party. And because of an after school tuition class time clash, I was just simply not allowed to go. I'm like, I remember the sinking feeling of just sadness, man. I don't know how to describe to you that. I don't know why I remember this specifically, dude. It's so vivid. I remember the card. I really do. The memory is so vivid. And of course, it's something very long ago. So as an adult and any functioning adult listening to this will just be like, wow, you just such a pity party starter. And again, this sort of recording, I guess this is kind of like the point, you know, they're being my parents, where they, label a thing and make you feel ashamed and name you like they label you something that they intend you to feel ashamed about, instead of recognizing that we are the results of the blueprints of our formative years, of our childhoods, right? No one just suddenly wants to off themselves. No one just suddenly wants to like do anything negative because, hmm, no reason. It must have come up from their childhoods, right? In one way or another, generally, largely, like generally speaking. Even psychopaths may have, shitty childhoods, which happens, and some of them even might have like doomed for life, like from birth, because their parents, their mother took drugs or took some kind of substances that led to maybe a brain malformation that made them into, you know, cold killing monsters. I don't know. Why did I go to this tangent? I always ask myself so many times, why do I just like, where did we go? Like, how did we get from where we're talking to here? I feel like what I'm doing is a lot of repetition. And this is another technique that I tried, like you repeat something, you repeat a word and repeat it enough times, suddenly the word is not a word, and suddenly the word, you forget what it means, and eventually the word disappears as you just keep repeating it, right? So you basically what I'm trying to do is just repeat again and again and again until it feels numb. And so far it has not worked, but I don't know. You can only hope for the best and do like I know to my parents, to my relatives, I'm just this fuck up that doesn't do anything, this lazy fucker. While inside there's so many layers of things that in large part were caused by them. And of course, it's hard to say this in any setting at all because, you know, and if you, and it's more appropriate that maybe a psychologist or a therapist says what I've just said to myself because it would like make more societal sense in a way. Because society in general expects you to not quote unquote whine about your past. Again, attaching very shameful, you know, labels with very shameful connotations. You know, you are what you are because of how you were conditioned. It's just like AI, right? A lot of AI, I think, I don't know how to program a lot of stuff, but AI pretty much just reacts on how and what you feed into it. And perhaps it will deviate and kind of branch out different responses, different functions based on the base programming and the base language and the base that you give it to function on. And this is what like I consider like computer AI and whatnot is just like very good analogies. It's like human light, right? When you think about like humans and try to dissect like complicated emotions and reactions and whatnot, you can think of a simpler form, which is computers. You do something like what you do is what you feed into it, right? So what you do now is what has been conditioned in you when you were younger, right? And again, when I say this, probably people, normal functioning people outside will say, oh, well, look at this bitch trying to make excuses, trying to avoid responsibilities. I know how people will feel. And this is why it's so hard to open up, isn't it? You open up, people judge you for it, and I'm not like I don't give a shit if people judge me per se. Honestly, we all feel hurt. And it's all the same response from them too. It's like, you'd think I don't have stress like you. What makes you so special? Or just a lot of these same things, man. Which I really just it's like talking to a brick wall. And again, probably this will be the last time in this recording I'll mention something like this. But it just flabbergasts me sometimes at how I know for a fact it's just like the landlord, the loud noises things that make me afraid and stuff like that, right? The same thing. I know he was working on the house and like what what I know, like I know that they probably never understand, but I vent to them anyway. Or try to make them understand anyway. But they're stuck in their old ways, if you will. They think, like the boomer thing, like cry and I'll give you something real to cry about or something like that. And I get that. I really do. Like I get where they come from, but it doesn't make things any better. So what do you do? Like what? Seriously, what do you do? I simply do not know. What do you do to untie this knot that's inside of you that makes you just so heavy and that you cannot function? And all this, like, I think there's an emotional debt thing that you take out when you just ignore your emotions when they first come out, like emotional conflict and all that. You just ignore it, and eventually when it comes back to bite you in the ass, not only in the sense that, oh, maybe in, you come out into society and you have to like react and handle appropriately situations with other people. It's not only that, you know, it's also that these things that you train yourself not to care, and you literally like train yourself not to care and not to feel, and you thought that, yay, I'm the better person, oh, I'm taking the high road, or you think you conquered or are high above feeling negative about anything. It's not only that you need it for like societal like interactions only, it also bites you in the ass that it actually comes back to haunt you emotionally. And this is something that cannot like I cannot for the life of me understand, right? It's like I didn't care. I trained myself not to care, and like la la la. It's almost like putting, in a way, because I was young. It's almost like you put your fingers in your ears and go la 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 la, right? When something negative hits you, because again, your parents tell you, people around you tell you, you're so lucky to be able to, go to school with the equipment and the conveniences that you have, and you don't, basically, you don't have any reasons and grounds to feel unhappy. So that's, and of course, that's not true, right? And that is why I always had this feeling in my very chest that just knows this doesn't feel right. But of course, you'll listen to your parents. And then I thought, I really thought that, I repeated some sort of mantra to myself, is that I'm a robot. I only feel good things, negative feelings, I don't feel them. Again, there's this pseudo philosophical saying, right? You only, get upset or get angry when you let it. Uh, so it's almost like a very nice saying to say that you're in control, which, for the most part, kudos to you if you can perform that. But it's like, ugh. So when I was younger, I had to adopt this thing like, um, what do you call it? Again, I don't feel any negative emotions. It's kind of like a mantra I say to myself. I'm better than that. Um, and eventually, as I age, as I become a physical adult now, it really came back to haunt me, like literally, like haunt me, because, and that really surprised me because you don't feel anything, like, not you don't feel it, but you deliberately just said that I don't want to feel these negative emotions. I'm gonna like, and I did a pretty good job of it, to be honest. Pretty damn well job. And as an adult, negative feelings started just pouring back. And at the time when it started, I didn't even know that was happening. I just know I felt bad. And eventually, as I started rediscovering my emotions and starting to like just starting to think back, like starting to actually brave myself to delve back into the, memory hell again. Which again, it's probably, not as bad as most other folks. I start to realize, you know what? Fuck. Oh, fuck. You know, you're just haunted by your own emotions. It's almost like of a debt that you take out of, okay, I don't want to feel any negative, like, I don't want to feel any negative emotions. You take out that debt, and now you have to pay it back. So it comes back in, tenfold because it's been so long. And it's interesting how life works, isn't it? Like a lot of analogies that work in real life. Imagine that AIs, computers, and now banks. Oh, I can't, dude. I really can't. So I'm always in a limbo. I think, I've tried like literally slapping myself and say, you know, just snap out of it, snap out of it, snap out of it. Didn't work. Berating myself didn't work. Say to myself, you're wonderful in front of a mirror, doesn't work. Tried SSRIs, that definitely fucked me up. Life is wonderful. So, I'll say this to myself, right? If one day I really end up, blowing this head off my noggin, well, that doesn't make sense. But basically, if one day I really do commit the ultimate sin, I wonder if you will blame me. This is a question I ask myself. Do you see it coming? And was it just like, will it be justified? Or is it justified, Let's say I'm going to off myself like tomorrow and I'll listen back to this recording. Would you, how would I say this? Do you think that what I will do would be logical? Like, hmm, do you see this coming and do you think it's a limit? And do you think it's right for you? You know? I can't believe I just said that. But I think, people will die. It's gonna happen eventually anyway. And so why not, I know it sounds so stupid, isn't it? Because people like old people with dementia, Parkinson's or something, they go to suicide clinics or something because they want to die with dignity. Could I say that same thing to myself? Dying with dignity if it's caused by this much emotional pain. I know the moment if I jump off the building or something, probably I will regret it because I've seen stories of people like trying to jump off a bridge and the moment the body left the rails, they instantly regret. Probably I know what it feels like. Probably I will regret it, but ultimately, will it be for the greater good? And people will say, oh, you are loved, you are blah, blah, blah. And I know for a fact that even people who love me, to be honest though, I know how ridiculous this sounds. I really do. You know, the landlord's working on the house right now and I can feel my heart pumping. Maybe not as fast now. You know what? I think I'll stop this recording and listen back to this when, you know, this recording has sat long enough to bake or to cook. so that I can listen back with a new perspective. Again, I'm not saying all of this as if the world revolves around me, as if the world is stagnating as I am. I'm cognizant of that, you know? And maybe next time I'll talk about. You know what? Before I go, I'm just going to tell this one more thing. And it's a very vivid, well, nothing is vivid, but it's a very clear memory, right? Last year, my sister finally got married to her first love, the elder sibling. So, as I've told you, this elder sibling, understandably really hated how restrictive the household is, and perhaps because of how I look and all that, pathetic, aka pathetic. It's almost like I think I looked like I was begging to be bullied or something, or begging to be scolded at. You know, that sort of look where the bullies look for when you just like shrink to the side, looking all pathetic and timid and looking down and just unconfident. It's like you're begging to be punched, something like that. It's almost like a smirk that's begging to be punched away, but for, the pathetic version, right? Maybe I had that sort of face, and she really tried every single opportunity to hang out with her friends, or basically, she was very much team friends, right? And perhaps she saw me as the extension of the prison that she was part of, and that's why probably she treated me bad. Not bad, but just, the look that they give you, that makes you feel like you're the most worthless piece of garbage in the whole world. And as I aged and went to university, I remember her, putting an effort into trying to, you know, help me get settled down. And she brought a friend with her. And I remember her friend having the same look as her, you know. And in my mind, perhaps she has not but ranted about me to her friends about how pathetic I was. In my head, it almost feels like that. I don't know if she ever did. But her friends had the same look towards me, like, you're worth shit. That sort of look. And finally, this sister is getting married, right? And at the eve of the wedding, I remember, you have to understand that up to this point, a lot of things I have always been told it's on you, it's your fault, right? And to be told that, oh, you think the world revolves around you, why do you act and look like the world owes you something? Why do you act and act and look like it's everyone else's fault but yours and blah blah blah? Perhaps because I never looked happy and that's why they think that. Understandable, not right, but understandable. And on top of all of that, there's always been constant talk by my mother to me. Like, why aren't you good with your elder sister? Like, don't you know it'll make me sad? Like, and she'll quote the problematic relationship she has with her eldest sister. And she's like, I, it'll make me sad, or it'll make me sad that you don't, you know, you aren't good. Like, you aren't buddy buddy with your sister, your elder sibling, right? And it's like, there's also this talk in our sort of culture where, well, in this life, you're fated to be, siblings. So why don't you and why can't you just get along, basically. There's always this sort of talk to me. And at the eve of that wedding, where she was about to get married, suddenly out of the blue, when it's so quiet, my mother said to me, like, you know, all of these years I watched your sister treat and speak to you badly, and it makes my heart, hurt to see that. Um, and at that moment, you have to understand that up till that moment, I kept self-analyzing, not analyzing it, but I keep like thinking that there must be something wrong with me, that my elder sibling is just treating me like, talking to me like in a just the most disrespectful way, and every single thing, like something just so minute ticks her off and she'll just explode. And I'm just thinking that what the fuck is wrong with me? And I also thought that I must be a narcissist. Oh, I must be some sort of evil person, and I must be some sort of psychopath because I'm not emotionally wired right. And my mother said that to me. Just like that. Like it's no big deal. And of course she's like sad about it, I guess, and remorseful in a way, or not remorseful, but sad, right? She said all throughout these years I saw how your sister treated you, and I feel sad. And then that, like, to be honest, I almost prefer that to an apology, really. And I do not expect an apology. Like don't get me wrong. And I get there's like a hierarchy thing in our culture too, where our parents are permanently like just seniors, so you have to be like permanently respectful to them just because that they're your elders. And I get that, and they deserve that because they are not malicious to me at all. So at that moment in time, it's almost like I don't feel a fucking thing. I don't know, there's no emotion, but maybe one day I'll just try to attach some sort of emotion to it. It's just like all these years, you had so many years to just, even if you don't want, like, even if you're afraid to talk about it with my elder sister, my elder sibling, which because my elder sibling was just more spunky and more like, I won't say aggressive, but you know, it's more fiery sort of personality, let's just say that. Like, even if you don't confront her about this, at least tell me that it's not your fault that your sister treats you that way. Like, it's not right that you're being treated that way. Like, I was never told that. Instead, I'm told with probably like not in non-intentional guilt tripping techniques, like, oh, it makes me sad to see you not get along. She knew that my sister just talks to me like I'm a piece of shit all the time. And I think it's my problem all the time. And yet it is my place, my responsibility, my job, my. It's on me to be good with my elder sibling, Well, all the time I was just busy trying not to offend her and shrink away. And it's on me to get along with her? Hmm. Hmm. And then she said it on the eve of possibly what's going to be the happiest day of my elder sibling's life, maybe? Stereotypically, Generally, that's what it is, right? Probably the best day of your life is when you get married, right? And she said that to me at the eve of her wedding. I don't know what to feel about that. But what I can say for a fact, because I have struggled, in a way, struggled. I was convinced, I was convinced that I was a psychopath, emotionally, you know, twisted. I was a narcissist up to that point. When she said that to me, I know, you know, when she said that to me, it's like, what am I supposed to feel about this? What am I supposed to feel? But even without that, I'll tell you, you know, is a fact. If nothing else, I can be sure that it's almost like I have to resolve all of these self-flagellation for all these decades at that moment so that somehow maybe there's a closure or resolution so that I won't act up tomorrow because she's gonna get married or something. But no, what's factual, I think. I don't know if anything else that I don't know, I know this, right? Is that I have been suffering all throughout these years and even until up that point, and I know for many more periods, whatever, after the fucking wedding. Even on the wedding itself, I'm gonna suffer. And tons after that, after the wedding, of course. Things don't just go away. It's like, you tell me this now. Now. And it's like, I have been living with all of these self-doubt, self-flagellation, just anything that's not good about this feeling of the self. While that bitch gets to get married and be happy. No, don't get me wrong, that's just like, it's like a gamer's sort of like salt, if you will. I'm just saying this at the moment. Do I think that she should divorce just to fulfill my twisted, like, revenge fantasy, which I don't have? No. To be fair, I guess she has been married to a decent, I hope, decent man. And I do believe that the man really brings out the better things in her. Probably. I don't know. I don't hang out with him. But again, it's like my life is filled with these subtle. You see, subtle sometimes is also like it's such a deceptive sort of word psychologically, because when you say subtle, it almost is synonymous to minuscule, minute, and insignificant. You know. But either way, my life is just filled with these subtle things that makes me wonder, why is this such a pattern in my life? They don't treat my elder sister this way, and I sure as hell is not treating my, younger sibling this way, because my younger sibling is living with my elder sibling. So their personalities pretty much mirror each other now, because imprinting, right? So they get kind of feisty and kind of like loudmouthed in a way. And I think not loudmouthed, you know how it's like aggressive verbally? And I guess it's sort of like a coping mechanism that they don't realize that they have, in my opinion. So that, if you're like louder and more sound like you're more in charge, you're pretty much less likely to be berated in the household. So so it's like the best defense is like the best offense is the best defense sort of thing. So you become more assertive so that people won't, talk down to you, which I'm not assertive. If anything, I'm the total opposite of that, which is whatever. I admit to that. It's like, you shrink into the corner so that people won't, just leave you alone, stop making you feel bad. And eventually you find out as an adult that even when you shrink in the corner, it's still not enough. They want you to shrink more. I think you find out you have no more room left, right? And so the only path to escape is to, I don't know, blow a bullet between your noggin or something. I don't know. So that's kind of my life in a way. Is it possible that if it's a misunderstanding, it has gone on for so long and so consistently? Is the question, you know? And again, if your parents, like, especially parents from my sort of culture, keeps talking down to you because they want you to grow in their eyes, they think so. They want to point out flaws in you so that you'll improve, okay, something like that. But your own sibling, right? And it's not even like a rivalry thing. We never had a rivalry. It's never like a two-way thing. It's only this sibling just like looking at me like I'm like a worthless piece of shit, not worth a time. Something like that. Of course, it's not 100% of the time. Decent, they're decent moments. Like, come on. Um, but it's just like I don't know what to like feel about all of this. And again, I know probably someone will tell me like stop feeling, but I just rediscovered my feelings in a way, so I'm just like, in order to fix my feelings, you know, I rediscovered my feelings in order to fix it. And so I'm just going down this rabbit hole. Like just like I have a cousin, and he's probably the only one that can understand me because he's the first one ever to come to me with the same problem. He was coming to me to kind of comfort him or to relate to me and to relate to him in a way because he felt crazy. He felt like his mind is broken, as he said, because of the behavior of his mother, which is like my aunt. Of course, he's my cousin, right? He's like, what the fuck is going on? And I don't remember specifically what's going on. But it's pretty much the same pattern, right? Where like the parents from our culture, boomer, plus they're from the culture where, again, they think that they can say anything and everything to you, and it's for your own good in their eyes, right? And again, like things like, I don't even know what are the examples, and I don't remember what he said to me, but he is probably the only one on my side. And we get fatigued sometimes, like listening, like he gets fatigued listening to my stories. And they're probably the only thing I can talk about because, again, it takes over your life, right? So in order to resolve it, it's only like it's almost like that's the only thing I can talk about. It really seems like it is. And one day, and the journey that I started with myself on this self-discovery is when he said to me one day is I remember like why does your parent blame you all the time for anything and everything? And that really made me start to finally, that was like the coin in the slot machine or something. And I just started like, you know what? I'll just pull the lever. It's a gamble, but it's probably time to pull the lever into just like it might make me mentally worse after all this, or in the process of all this of trying to go back into painful, like possibly discovering painful revelations. But at least even if next day this is all going to be gone because I'm going to be gone or something, at least I would know uh, to various extent that at least I know what's going on, you know. At least I know, what happened to me in my life. They might be subtle, but for some goddamn reason or another, it fucked me up for life. As an adult, I barely feel like I'm older than 15. Like, which explains, like, I'm not saying it explains it, but probably part of the, I don't know, people who love little kids, sort of like, not little kids, but you're still like a pedo if you like. I do have a problem with people who like prepubescent children, but if they're a teen, and I'm just proposing this as some sort of like, not an argument, but some sort of like a weird idea. What if people who are significantly older don't feel like they're emotionally older than like than a teenager, and that's why, you know, dating or a teenager doesn't seem like as much of a problem to them as other people see them to be. That's just a fucking shower thought. And I'm lucky that I don't have any desire at all to date, just like I have no desire at all to have friends, really, because, well, it largely has to do with, when I was younger, I'm just forced to condition myself to be content and comfortable without any friends. And that has just carried over to adulthood, and I'm just okay with not having friends. Thank God for that, right? And thank God I don't have the urge to date or to have some sort of like partner or something because again, I know it's cliche, but if you don't love yourself, how would you love someone else? I'm just lucky, I guess. I really don't, see myself dating or marrying. I just feel like I'm just fucked up. And so if I'm fucked up, why would I want to drag someone down with me? Like seriously, why would I? You know? I can barely take care of myself. Like I'm in survival mode. I cannot like just cannot fathom like it's like I cannot fathom thinking about anything further than my station, if you will. And my station in my heart is pretty low already. And it's a very complicated thing in my head, like in the end it's all in your head, isn't it? That's what the boomer parents say. Especially once in my culture, they say it's all in your head. Do you think other people don't have stresses too? And um back in my day, and we had it worse than you and all that crap. Which is why from now on I'm never talking to them ever again about this issue if I talk to them at all. It can get very hard. It can get very hard. And I know it sounds cliche and it sounds so very logically true. But again, like it's all in your head, isn't it? And what they say is all words, ain't it? Like why does it affect you so much? That is something that is hard to understand for me. It's just as hard to understand as, how I ignored any negative emotion, deliberately ignore like any negative emotion to be felt by me when I was a teenager. And now it's coming back to haunt me. Like, it is like hard to understand. Like, can't you just choose not to feel negative? Can't you just choose not to like get angry? Like, okay, maybe you can choose not to get angry, but I guess you can less so choose not to feel angry, depending on how emotionally, attached to, attached, like, depending on how emotionally, aware you are of about yourself, maybe. I don't know. I don't know how much more time I have to decipher this because, you know, people say that you know when you're dying. You feel like when you're dying. It's like, I remember Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde, that's a novel, and I always kind of like laugh it off as some sort of like a dramatic sort of writing when Dr. Jekyll says to his friend, no, 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 there's this guy that was so shocked by the by witnessing Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde, the thing happening, that he was dying from shock, like literally dying from shock, and he told a friend of Dr. Jekyll's that I can feel that I'm dying. I don't know, dude. I don't know. And the way I'm saying, like describing this is because, I want to avoid spoilers. I know it's like an like it's maybe a century old book by this point, Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. Basically, something is on with Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde, and people were um very suspicious and like very curious as to why Dr. Jekyll, a respectable, handsome doctor, would leave all of his, possessions in his will to this just nasty, ugly, like just disrespectful man that is Mr. Hyde. And one day, this friend of Dr. Jekyll's witnessed something about Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde that just shocked him to the point of death. Like it's like those Chinese fantastical sort of you know TV dramas or whatnot or novels where it's at some point and every single time I see it, it's that some guy was either emotionally like just clutching pearls sort of like moment, emotionally like impacted or something, or he was, you know, um, hit in the chest or hit in the body by some sort of kung fu, and he starts spitting blood. Ooh! And this is kind of like the same thing for Westerners, I suppose, is that again, this friend A of Dr. Jekyll was just witnessing something that's so shocking that he ran or something and he saw friend B or something and he told friend B, I can feel that I'm dying from shock, that is. And I always thought that was some sort of dramatic writing that's not based in reality. But now you know, it's kind of dark going from something so lighthearted and funny to, you know, me. But I really do wonder if you can feel that you're dying and not by physical illness, you know. It's almost like chess. Before you get checkmated, you can see, like, before you lose and get checkmated, you can see that it's coming in a few moves or somewhat. Like, from chess players, the experience that they describe is that if you're gonna lose, you can literally, like, see it coming. And I think I see my time coming. And I know it's very stupid in a way because especially for normal people it's gonna seem very stupid. And even I know it's stupid. And the reason I know it's stupid is because it it almost like from the sidelines you can see that it's almost instantly like solvable the moment you get a job or the moment you get a friend or the moment you feel better about yourself. But all of these things really don't seem realistic to me. Let's be real. Because of all these years, you feel a certain way about yourself. It's likely, again, the kayaking against the tide. If you are staying at the same spot of the river despite paddling all your might, perhaps you're going in the wrong direction. And if I've been feeling like, again, feelings seems so insignificant, but if I have been like this, like just for all so long of my life, maybe it's time to give up. Maybe. And they say, giving up, sometimes giving up is the strongest thing that you can do. Is it? Hmm. Of course, it doesn't apply to every situation, but is it? Is it actually strong to off yourself, or is it cowardice, as my parents say? I know both of them have their points. It's very hard to just violently, personally tear your own life force away from your body. But at the same time, cowardice. Very often a time, people who berate people with something that feels very good to them is probably the total opposite of what is going on and total opposite of what you should have said in order to help another person. Like, instead of saying he's lazy, which, the symptom is lazy, like, not symptom, like, the behavior is lazy, and you're not doing anything, you can see he's not doing anything. But instead of just labeling that person lazy, why don't we look behind what we call laziness and see what's going on there? And in our culture, when someone, you know, is, taking drugs and all that crap. It's almost like a death sentence societal, like death sentence, like not death sentence. It's almost like it's a irredeemable black stain on your reputation. I get that, but it's more so in our culture, I guess. It's almost like everyone avoids him and just like, you're just like, l- and in my culture, of course, the elders will say that you're so lucky, and yet you choose to fuck it up. That's what they will say. You choose to fuck your own life up. But instead of like the stigma on drug use and all that, why don't they look behind the curtain and think like and see what led you to want to use drugs, you know? And I know why the person I know is using drugs. In their home life, it was so empty. I could see that from a mile away. But of course, the elders in my household, relatives will all just say, he's a fuck up. That's all they will see, and that's all they will say, and that's all they will, feel about it. Why did I go to that tangent again? And now they probably see me as a fuck up too in my own way. And I know why I went to that tangent. Like, if I off myself, they will say that it's my fault. And to be honest, technically it is. They'll say that I'm a cowardice. Like, I'm a coward. Checking out. Hmm. They will forever not know what they did to me. It almost sounds like I'm vindictive at this moment, and perhaps I am. Nah. But, I guess ultimately, it's almost like an equation, it's like H2O is made up of H2 and O or something. I don't know. So it's almost like an equation, right? When you are wronged, you want an apology or at least an acknowledgement to balance out that equation somewhat, you know? So that you won't, so it is balanced, so your mind is balanced, so that you can feel like you're not crazy. In all my life, the weight of the whole equation has always so much so been skewed towards me. It's my fault. They give up a lot of things for me. They work so hard for me. Why don't you get along with your bullying? And in a sense, my elder sibling wasn't deliberately and maliciously a bully, but we just didn't get along, right? And all I want, I guess, in a way, I don't seek an apology partly because, it will be cringe for me to hear it anyway. I at least wanted an acknowledgement, so that I won't feel like I'm crazy. Because what they do is that they say certain things to you or whatnot, and they won't acknowledge it. They might even deny it or just say, no, I didn't say that. And you feel like you just like, what the fuck? And eventually, because they deny it, it's almost like mm, like just a plentiful ground to just say, oh, you're starting to find excuses, huh? You're starting to find reasons to pin shit on me. And it's just a whole can of worms that I'm just like, my mind is checking. Like, my mind, I just check out. And it's like, eventually, how long and how many times does this need to happen before I check out of life entirely? Because this equation in life, like, it's just like, it doesn't make sense. You know what? I'm just gonna like stop it here. I want to figure out what I want to do, whether I want to fast for 7 days or just go out and get some groceries or go out and get a job application going. Who fucking knows? Like, no one just like, if you're a normal, like, decent sort of upbringing, there's no reason that you don't want to just go out and achieve something and do something. Maybe next time I'll talk about expectation. I don't know. I don't even know if there's a next time, man. And it's fine too. Alright. Let's just stop here and try to figure out what we want to do now. Do we order groceries or just starve ourselves because we see our money dwindling and rent is due? Man, that's so pathetic. Oh, ay, 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 ay. That really is pathetic. Very, very pathetic. So, I guess I'll end it here. I need to listen back to this and find out what's wrong. Or if anything I can take out of this and whatnot. Okay, here we go. End stream.